Ente Veedu means happiness.
It means family.
Always festive.
I said community.
Home is really people.
Ente Veedu means a safe space.
Diversity. There are different ties that bind us.
Wherever my family is home for me.
Singapore is my home when I think of Ente Veedu.
Actually, my maternal great-grandparents came from Kerala quite a while ago, and they actually settled in Jurong when they migrated to Singapore. My paternal great-grandparents came from Kerala, and they arrived in Malaysia actually.
For me, I actually arrived in Singapore when I was 10 months old as a baby.
It was through my grandfather. I actually spoke to him about my ancestors in Kerala, Malappuram. And then I think as I was asking him lots of questions, he told me about the family business that we had in India. Because they were quite popular, I actually went to Google about them. So they're actually known as Changambali Air Veda Sthala. Sthala means place. Then when I Googled about them, I actually read a lot about history. And because they're very well known, there was actually a documentary done up about them. There was a 3-part document explaining about who we are, where we came from.
I didn't go very far back to, what my great-grandfather or what they were doing, but what I am aware of is that my grandfather was from this place called Navaikulam. I actually don't really know where exactly it is, but I am aware that it is somewhere...
The south side,
the
right?
South side, yeah.
I joined the Singapore Malayali Association Youth Wing. So having sort of that space through the Malayali Association's Youth Wing to immerse in our own ways, in our own culture, in bringing it out in whatever ways we felt comfortable with, that was quite a nice process. One major thing that I had in mind that with my then team, right, was what it meant to be a young Malayali in Singapore. And also in that sense, I wanted to be able to have a team of youths who resonated with me at the same level, who understood the challenges. And I was quite happy that the team then was very cognizant of the fact that, hey, these are the challenges that we're facing. Some of us speak a lot of Malayalam at home and some of us don't. Yeah. So it's about creating that safe space for ourselves to be able to embrace our culture in our own ways.
For me, it's definitely a constant process of appreciating as well as growing with my culture. As a Singaporean, Indian, Filipino, as I grow a little bit more older, there's that profound sense of curiosity, wanting to know a little bit about my roots. When the book Sembawang actually came out, I grabbed a copy of it because I really wanted to understand a little bit about what Sembawang meant to the people that actually resided there, particularly my grandparents, their extended family and so on, and many of the Malayalees as well. That's where I felt that instant connection as well to the very stories that my family actually reminded me as a Malayali growing up. The very cultures, the traditions, they held close to their hearts as Malayalees.
The Malayali roots is very grounded in my family. Because I'm a 4th generation Malayali, I tend not to speak Malayalam at home. But honestly, I understand Malayalam from a very young age because my family has been speaking almost every single day. So I think through that, I really picked up a lot.
I speak the language, so I converse daily with my parents in Malayalam and my brother in Malayalam. In our household, we usually speak in Malayalam. And also, I call my grandparents quite often, I think at least twice a week. And I talk to them in Malayalam and I tell them about my day. So it helps me to kind of connect with my roots in India too.
I remember in my childhood, my family and I used to go into the gardens to pluck flowers that we had in our corridor. So we can use that for the pukalam. Nice. Yeah, and then we used to do that in our house.
The different religions never really bothered us in terms of our connection. Onam, in a way, being the harvest festival itself, is just a nice time to gather everybody, and especially the food. You cannot complain about the food. My family will just have rice with all the multiple cultural dishes, and then it's very famous to pour the ghee on top of the rice. Yeah, so it's that's mainly what I enjoy about Onam, the harvest festival. Yeah.
I think that's what most people enjoy about Onam also, the sadhya it's always top notch.
Yeah, whenever I go to my grandma's house, she would love to cook appam for us. Like that's her favorite dish to cook for us, and it's so good. And you know, every time I finish with one, she's like, "Here, have another, have another." You know, like typical grandma things.
The language, the slang.
On point. Yeah.
How do you say "don't run" in your way of saying? How do you say it?
Okay, so because my roots is from like Malappuram side, so Malappuram has our own like slang as well. So I would say manda, like for example, I used to hear like "don't run," they'll say mandanda. Yeah, you would say the usual, I think.
The usual, yeah. Odenda.
Odenda, right? Just like the song Odenda, Odenda. Interestingly, like over the time, like when I mixed with like some of my Travancore Muslim friends and also like Malabar Muslim friends, dude, it's like amazing. Like from one end of Kerala all the way to Kasaragod, like from extreme south to extreme north, so different. It's really different with like the influences and stuff. So even Travancore Muslims also do have your own slang, depends on which state you come from. But anyways, we're in Singapore, you know, we will somehow just understand each other regardless of where we come from and everything from our history.
So I don't know if you've heard of Trishul Puram.
No, I've not heard of.
It's a massive festival with like dozens of elephants, and it goes the whole day. There's like a whole bunch of like people playing they call it chenda, and they just keep hitting it back to back to back.
In Singapore?
Yeah, so they brought like an essence of that into Singapore and called it Singapore Puram recently. I've heard of Trishul Puram, never got a chance to go to Trishul itself to witness it, but I got to see it in Singapore with all the Malayalees who were all there. It was really quite surreal, quite an experience.
Both my Thai side and my Malayali side they are quite like intertwined in a sense. My grandparents, KP Bhaskar and Shanta Bhaskar, they brought up all their children and grandchildren in the arts. My grandmother, she went to Thailand in 1990 to learn Thai dance, and in 1990 was also the year that my father married my mother, who is Thai, and you know, she brought back some like cultures from Thailand back to Singapore, my grandmother, to incorporate in her Indian dances in Singapore. So she was actually one of the first Indian artists to intertwine Thai culture with Indian culture in Singapore at least. So I've always felt that like these two sides of my life have always, they were never apart. They were always like together. There are actually so many similarities in both cultures. Certain words like the months in the calendar are the same in Thai and in Malayalam. So for me personally, growing up, I saw lots of like Kathakali and Mohiniyattam. Even during festivals like Onam, you know, my grandfather at his house, he would perform a little Kathakali performance of Onam, like the Onam story, and that's how like we learned about like the festivals and all the culture.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. So I think for me, definitely as someone who grew up in, you know, a mixed parentage household, an interesting, I guess, like experience would be that my mom, I guess she's a little bit more familiar, surprisingly, in terms of Malayali culture and tradition, in terms of the different types of cuisines, the customs, the different practices. When she married my dad, I think one of the first few things that she was introduced to was actually Malayali cuisine from her Malayali mother-in-law. And very interestingly, sometimes during festive occasions and all that, as a Filipino, she'll be the one reminding my dad a lot about, you know, some of the practices and cultures, which I felt that was quite cute. I think as a couple, that really adds a lot of color to their relationship, because it's a constant process of navigating who they are, but at the same time appreciating each other's cultures. I grew learning through their own, you know, ways of learning and embracing each other's cultures.
I'm Catholic, so you know, all the things we celebrated were Christmas, Easter. So when my sister got married, there was actually like 3 different scenarios. She had a Sangeet to embrace the Punjabi side. We also all flew over to Kerala to witness the wedding celebrations there with her and her husband. And then we also had a church wedding, that embraced the fact that we're Catholic. During that period of time is really where we kind of saw all of our different cultures just be embraced and celebrated in the nicest way possible.
Ente Veedu means like family to me because Veedu itself means home to me. And in Singapore, that's where all my family and friends are. And I really treasure all of them. And I think that the word home really tells me that it's a place where I belong and it's a place where all my connections and my support system is.
I think to me, Ente Veedu means happiness because my home is where I'm most happiest and surrounded with people I love the most.
Ente Veedu means diversity, particularly for me because it's like two cultures that come together, right? Like my Thai side and my Malayali side, they get intertwined and they come together.
There are different ties that bind us. So being someone who's a Malayali based in Singapore, I think our experience as a Singaporean has definitely shaped us.
Wherever you are, no matter what you're doing, as long as you have the people that make you feel comfortable, make you feel safe, that's always going to feel like home to me. So I've been, this whole year I've been traveling so much, but every time I just give a call to a family member or anyone that's back home, or if anyone's from home and they're there with me, it doesn't feel foreign at all. Like that's just something that I always go back to.
For me, Ente Veedu means a safe space. And I think, again, it's the people who are in it, the emotions that are attached to it, the sentiments that are attached to it, regardless of our identity, whether it's mixed or not, or what religion we might be adhering to. I think it's just a place for us to be us.
Ente Veedu to me is always festive. I have a big family. I am one of 3 sisters, and growing up, I had my grandparents and both my grandmothers with us as well. So coming back home from school was always coming home to a very loud and happening home, right? So I would hear like Asianet in the background. There's always Malayalam music playing, or my sisters playing the veene. So it's just very cultural.
Right. I said community as Ente Veedu. Being a Malayali Christian, I grew up in a community where my church is filled with family, friends. It's such a very small community. So everybody kind of knows everybody, and being in the church for I think more than 2 decades now, it just feels like that's where my home is. Yeah, it's like a second home. Most of my friends all come from that one community. If you need help, they're just one call away, one text away. Yeah, so it's very nice.
Ente Veedu means my family. Wherever my family is home for me. So there is this saying in Tamil called Yadum Ure Yavarum Kelir, which means that the world is my home and everybody is my kin.
So because I'm a 4th generation Malabari Muslim, practically most of my family members, my relatives, it's here. And I have created so much of memories, like tears was shared here, joy was shared here, love. Yeah, my home is where my family is, and my family is in Singapore. So Singapore is my home when I think of Ente Veedu.